So no Rolexes on the channel for a while. This is the second. There's actually be a third coming as well. So this is from a different friend from the one that lent me the Kermit. This is probably up there as my top two favourite Rolexes. Either this or the BL RO, so the Pepsi effectively. So really pleased that he's let me borrow this just for the weekend. So this is the GMT Master 2 reference 116710 BLNR. Got there eventually. This isn't the current model, it's the one before the current model, so it's like one generation old. And there are slight tweaks, obviously, especially in the movement section between this model and the newer models, but I'm not going to be going into that. This is the one I've got. So this is the one I'm going to talk about. As always, we'll look at the watch head, the bracelet, the clasp, the movement, and then just come back for a summary. Whoop. Man, that looks great. Right, okay. So dimensions, same as with, I'm sure you all know, but 40 millimeters in diameter, 12 millimeters thick, lug to lug of 48, although, again, it has male end links. So instead of just dropping straight down, it doesn't. So I'd say the lug to lug is more like 50 millimeters as opposed to 48. But it does wear deceptively smaller than that, because obviously the lugs finish here. But yeah, I'd say it's more like a true 50 millimeter lug to lug, if not slightly longer, which people don't appreciate when they actually buy these watches. And then 20 millimeters between the lugs, tapering to 16 millimeters at the bracelet, and then back up to about 20 at the clasp. I find it odd. I know it's only 100 meters of water resistance compared to the Submariner's 300, but a millimeter thinner with an extra complication. Do you notice a millimeter? You probably don't notice a millimeter, to be fair, but I find it odd that it's a millimeter thinner than a Submariner when it's got an additional complication on it, and it must be due to the water resistancy level. Yeah, I find that a little bit odd. The side profile, again, is, I think Rolex have just nailed it with the side profiles. A very small case back, I think even smaller than the Sub, very nice mid case, and then a really nice bezel as well. The proportions between each of those three are just spot on. And I mentioned this in my previous video looking at my Pelagos 39, the way they've not also brand new watch, isn't it? So the way they've designed it compared to the 58s and the Black Bay range, I've always said the Black Bay range have got too much for a slab side and too much for a slim bezel. Just the proportions aren't right. But these, along with the Pelagos 39 and other watches, Omega do it well. The side proportions, which a lot of people overlook, are absolutely spot on. So I do really like that a lot. The weight, it's 100, I think it was 143, 145 grams. So pretty much what you'd expect. I would probably need, I definitely would need another link. So it would be a little bit more than that for me. But yeah, it's typical, exactly the weight you'd expect for a watch of those dimensions. And obviously having a very strong taper helps reduce the weight as well. So that's, yeah, it's decent in terms of the weight. It's exactly what you'd expect. The brushing and polishing is in line with what you'd expect from any brand like this, Omega, IWC, these guys, Zenith. It's fine. It's a fine brush. You'll see this has been very well worn, by the way, which is, I know a lot of people would like to see that. It's been much loved, worn for gardening, cleaning cars, the whole shebang. He's worn it a lot, but it's held up really well, to be fair. But anyway, where was I? Good point. Finishing. Yeah, so the case finishing it's fine. It's exactly what you'd expect across all these types of brands, Grand Seiko. There's nothing special to it. One disappointment with this, which I had forgotten about until I actually got it, is the fact that there's no chamfering on these watches. I believe they've brought that back in on the newer models. Obviously, they had it on the older models, as we saw, and for some reason they got rid of it on these models. I don't know why. It really does make the case look less interesting, less expensive, to be frank. Just not having that small chamfer on the top, the extra bit of complexity that adds, and it can't have been cost reasons. It must have been an aesthetic reason for it. But I definitely do miss the chamfer, and I hadn't appreciated that until I actually looked at the watch. I think I knew it didn't have one, but yeah, it does miss it. The crown guards don't get in the way of the movement of the crown, which I'll show in a moment. But yeah, the K-chamfer, or lack of K-chamfering, is a disappointment for me. The bezel action is really nice. So I had my Tudor GMT, and the Tudor GMT kind of, I can't do it on this because it doesn't do it, it kind of bounced up and down, and you could see the ratcheting movement underneath it, which wasn't ideal. And also when I moved it one way and then the other way, it felt better moving it to the left than it did to the right. It didn't have the same feel. Whereas this has exactly the same feel. You can't hear it, there's no point in doing this, but it's extremely smooth, extremely positive action, and it feels exactly the same going both ways. This is far, far better bezel action than the Tudor GMT. It's really nice, it's very positive, easy to grip. Obviously you've got lots of indents on the ground, the bezel, they're nice, they're not uncomfortable to use or anything like that. It just works really well, so I like that a lot. It looks really good, and the bezel action is fantastic. Obviously you've got the black and the blue, which is the main feature of this watch, with the blue GMT hand. It's spot on. They've judged the blue, for my taste, judged it absolutely perfectly. On the Bluesy, the blue is extraordinarily bright, and although I like that watch, the Bluesy sub, I don't know the reference, but it's the blue and yellow gold, yellow gold and stainless steel watch. I find the blue to be far too bright for my taste, even though I do like the watch. On this, it's a far more subdued blue, and actually in some lights it looks black. So yeah, I think the blue and the amount, not in the shade, but the amount of blue is spot on. They could have put more blue all over the dial. It could have been a blue dial, could have had more blue text on it. But just with that bottom half there and the GMT hand, I think it's absolutely spot on. And it's what we all love about this watch, right? It's the perfect amount. They haven't overdone it at all, which is very easy to do when you look at lots of other watches out there. The watch is a testament to ceramic and ceramic bezels. As you can see, it's got nibbles out the side of the case. It's got scratches all over it. You know, it's had a good life, but the ceramic bezel is completely untouched. Now, some people might not like that. Some people might prefer the aluminium bezels because it wears with the watch. So you have a knackered watch, which this isn't knackered, but a knackered watch with a faded bezel with some marks on it. Some people might like that and think that actually a watch which has been used like this with a pristine bezel might look a bit odd. Personally, I prefer the bezel on this to be ceramic, although the very high gloss finish of it, can't have everything, right? You can't please everyone. The aluminium finish on the Kermit, I preferred. That a little bit duller, a little bit more matte. This is extremely high gloss. It kind of goes with the aesthetic of the watch, I guess, because you've got the high polished white gold rhodium plated applied markers with the hands, and you've obviously got the polishing, got the polished center links and so on. But I did prefer the overall finish of the aluminium bezel. But yes, it is a testament to ceramic bezels and ceramic as material, and it shows how hardy it is. Not a scratch, not a blemish. Absolutely brilliant. No complaints about that at all. Again, I do think there's a bit too much text on the dial, although it does balance very well. So you've got 3 bits of text at the top, 3 bits of text at the bottom. But I would have been happy with Rolex and the crown, and then just GMT Master 2. And maybe, no, probably just GMT Master 2 at the bottom, or maybe one other line of text to be kept just to keep it equal. But yeah, I don't see the need for 6 lines of text or 5 lines of text and a logo. It's just a bit too much for my taste. Cyclops, hate the Cyclops, don't understand it, don't think it's needed. The date window underneath is plenty big enough without a Cyclops on it. If it was my watch, as with the other one, I'd take the Cyclops off. Yeah, I just don't get it. My daughter actually, bizarrely, she liked it. She looks at it and she was like, oh, that's cool, because it's a different feature and you don't see it a lot. But I just don't get it. Yeah, anyway, let's move on from that. The dial is spotless, very nice finish indeed. Obviously, extraordinarily legible black dial, white markers, and with the hands being so high polished, and the standard Mercedes hands that you get on Rolexes as well, it's very legible and easy to read. I do think the size of the plots is actually spot on for the watch. I know some people might prefer some smaller plots, but being a sports watch and with the size of the dial, I think it's in really good proportions, so I like that a lot as well. Not much not to like, as you are hearing. I think that's it really. So we'll move on to the bracelet. So again, I don't like the fact the bracelet has male end links. I do think female end links, letting it drop down, would make it more comfortable for more wrists. And it would make it more, especially for smaller wrists. For me, it's not a problem, but it would make it more comfortable for more wrists, smaller wrists. As you'd expect, solid links, nice and slim. It feels really nice inside. I honestly don't see. It's not as good a bracelet as my IWC Mark 18. I think that was a far more complex and better made, or equally as well-made bracelet. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's as good as my Omega. It's as good as, not quite as good as the IWC, but it's very comfortable, very smooth, articulates well. It's absolutely fine. It's always the bracelet that everyone knows and loves. I do not like polished center links, and as you can see, if you look at the polished center links compared to the brushed areas, even though they're both marked, as you'd expect, it stands out a lot more on the polished center links. I'm just not a fan of them. I don't like them. I don't think they really have a place on a sports watch, but I know lots of people do like them. The guy that owns the watch, I did say to him, would you get them brushed to make it a bit more sporty? But he actually really likes it. And it does add an element of bling. But yes, not for me. You do have the polished center links, and then the polished links, the outer links are polished as well. I think that's kind of it for the bracelet. No easy change, which you wouldn't have seen on any watch really at this price point, at this age. But even the newer watches don't have it, and I think that is disappointing. Zenith have got it, IWC have introduced it. I think even Breitling have introduced it. So I'd like to see an easy change, strap change system on Rolexes going forward. It just means you're not going to scratch up the back of the watch. And this has never had a strap change, so it's pristine on the back of the watch. Very boring to look at, but that is not anything new. So yeah, it'd be nice to see a new strap changing system come in. Clasp, milled clasp, nothing wrong with it. Feels solid, easy to use, grabbing underneath the crown there. I find it funny that people whinge about the Tudor crown and say it hurts their fingers because it sticks out, but that sticks out just as much. And actually the Tudor one angles up slightly to make it more comfortable to use, whereas this one doesn't. I don't have a problem with either, but I find it funny that people have that issue. I hadn't appreciated this is kind of spring-loaded to make it easier to release. That's quite a nice feature. I hadn't seen that. Very well engineered, especially when you think that the Zenith, there you go, you can see it kind of flex when it goes in. So if you do that, it kind of flexes, and then when you open it, I hadn't appreciated that. I like that. That's a good feature, because on Tudor watches, you just pull from here and they'll go up, but this won't. It's really safe, and I hadn't appreciated that's why. So yeah, nice feature, well built. And when you compare this to the Zenith clasp, it's just leagues above. The Zenith clasp is atrocious and doesn't deserve to be on the watch it's on for the Chronomaster Sports, in my view. This does have an easy link, so it gives you an extra 5mm adjustment, and I will need that open when I put the watch on. I don't get it. Just put a smaller glide lock system on it. This is extra 5mm, but generally 5mm is too much. It is for me anyway. I prefer it in increments of 1 or 2mm. So yeah, a bit. I don't get it. It'd be nicer to have more adjustment on it, in my opinion. And again, there's no ceramic ball bearing, so I don't know if the modern Rolexes, the newer ones, have ceramic ball bearings. So it means the actual use of the clasp, while fine, isn't as snickety and as nice a sound and feel as the watches I have with ceramic ball bearings. So my Tudors have all got ceramic ball bearings, or had them, and my Zenith had ceramic ball bearings. And also it means that it will wear more over time, and eventually it'll take a lot of use, but that will become loose and you'll need to get a new clasp fitted to the watch. Again, I say I'll have a more modern Rolex in soon, and I hope to see that actually has ceramic ball bearings at that point. So I am going to squeeze it onto my wrist. I think it's really, I love it, right? Overall, I think it's really nice. Right, before we do the summary, we need to talk about movement quickly, and it will be quick. I will put a picture of the movement in. I'm going to leave it on, actually. But ultimately, it's cost certified, it's fine. It's 48 hours power reserve, 28,800 beats per hour. It's the reference 3186, so please, feel free to go away and look at that if you want to. It's before they got the superlative certification in, I think. So it's fine, it does the trick. They've got a more modern movement, but apparently that has some issues. So it is what it is. But on my 7-inch wrist, which is quite an oval wrist, I think it looks spot on. I do think on smaller wrists, the nail end links might be a problem. Let's move on to the summary. I love it. So as I say, it's one of my favourite watches. There are issues. I don't think there is such a thing. I used to think there was a thing as a perfect watch, but there just isn't. If this was my watch, the big improvement I'd make is I'd get a Submariner bracelet. It would get rid of the polished center links, and it would give me a glide lock system on the clasp to enable better adjustability on the fly. So that would be the single biggest change I would make to this watch, and I think for me that would make it an almost perfect watch. It would get rid of my gripe with not having enough adjustment on the clasp. It would get rid of the gripe I have around the polished center links. It would make it look more sporty, and yeah, that is absolutely something I would be looking to do. Really, the only things I don't like the Cyclops. I don't like the amount of text. I don't like the fact it hasn't got chamfers on the case. Beyond that, it's a really, really nice watch to use. I didn't actually do the... It's actually really firm. It's a lot firmer than my friend, the Kermit to undo. You'll hear that ticks like all the other Tudor and Rolex movements. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not buttery smooth, but it's fine. And then when you... Yeah, it's a very, very nice screw-in action. It's very, very smooth. There's no grittiness to that at all, just like the Kermit. Very, very nice indeed. So yeah, overall, I love it. I'm glad I've got to spend a decent amount of time with it. It's a superb watch, but like every watch, it has its flaws. As always, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you very much.